They do right now. They definitely are not. They're definitely not top 10. I give you that. I still think we're like playoff bound. I still think we can be a playoff team. I'm not concerned about us being the worst team in the NFL or being like a top 10 bad team at all. I don't think we're that kind of a team, but we're definitely somewhere between the 20 and 10s of rating between teams for sure. I would definitely say that. Yeah. So right now the 49ers have a lot of things they need to figure out, but before we get into anything else, we're going to just go ahead and talk about the elephant in the room, which is who would I put most of the blame on? Clearly there was multiple things, just like every single week where there's something is going wrong and someone is to blame every single time. And there's more than one person to blame every single time, it seems. And there's always a majority of a blame to go around to somebody. And if I had to blame someone for this loss straight up, is Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy was the reason why we lost that game. I love Brock Purdy. I defend Brock Purdy with my life. I actually constantly claim how elite he is. This game did not give me any ground to stand on. This was the worst game I have ever seen Brock Purdy play. I mean, it was hands down worse than the Ravens game. The Ravens game, the Ravens made great plays. They made great blocks. They did what they had to do. A couple tip passes went the wrong way. There's a couple things you could say about Brock Purdy in that game where you're like, hey, you know, those 4 picks that he threw against the Ravens last year were like, okay, there's some tip balls here and there and stuff like that. And this game, though, is hands down worse. This was his worst game. He made bad decisions constantly. It's almost as if, and the way I like to compare it, I compare it to the fact it's like he played like he did in the second half versus the Minnesota Vikings last year. It's almost as if he had a concussion. It was really weird seeing this Brock Purdy out there. I understand that there was wide receivers issues. I understand there's some misconnections and stuff, but there was times where regardless of who the receiver was, why did he make the decision to throw it? Take the sack if you have to. Throw it out of bounds if you have to. But there was just moments where he really forced the ball as if, I don't know who to blame in the situation, but as if he was told, hey, you got to throw this ball no matter what, even if there's 4 people there or not. You're throwing this ball to him. That's what it seemed like to me. And that is baffling because the first interception that he threw, which I believe was his first pass off of play action, was terrible. That was almost as bad as Baker Mayfield's interception that he had in the corner last night against the Ravens, where there was nobody open and he threw it directly at the defender. He threw it directly at Eric Reed. Eric Reed? Can't remember his name. The safety, number 20. Threw it directly at him. I didn't understand that. Then later on in the game, he threw an interception. We're in the red zone where I think we're down 4. I think it was 9 points. I don't remember exactly what it is, but we needed that touchdown. We were going down the drive. Everything was going great. We had everything going our way. I would have hated if we kicked a field goal, but a field goal would have been better than nothing in that situation. He threw an interception that some will say, oh, well, his hand got knocked out, so that's how the interception handling. McKivitz couldn't stop. I don't remember who it was on the right. I think it was Karlaftis. It could be him that knocked the ball out of his hand almost, and maybe like a funky ball. That wouldn't have mattered because who he was throwing to was Chris Connolly, and Chris Connolly was not open. He was completely double covered. There was no separation whatsoever. He should have lived to see another down, and he threw the ball anyway. He threw the ball into double coverage. No, the last pick was the one where he threw to Ronnie Bell, I believe. Or was it the second one? I don't know. The second one where he threw, if you want to talk about that one, where he threw to Ronnie Bell, that you have to put the blame on Brock Purdy because the ball's in his hands and he threw it. And Brock Purdy takes responsibility for that throw. However, if you want to be realistic about it, that was because Brock Purdy and Ronnie Bell do not have a connection. That's because Ronnie Bell does not know what Brock Purdy is going to do with the ball. That is because Ronnie Bell ran the wrong route. Because clearly, when Brock Purdy throws a ball, he throws a ball with anticipation. Everyone knows that. Everyone knows that Brock Purdy throws a ball with the expectation the receiver is going to be there. He threw that ball where there's no receiver there because Ronnie Bell decided to break downwards. So personally, I think that's on Ronnie Bell more so than Brock Purdy in that situation. But Brock Purdy is the quarterback, so he must take responsibility for that. But if you wanted to like take away that whole aspect of it, it was without a doubt Ronnie Bell's fault in that situation. So, but the second pick where he threw it in the end zone, that was bad. That was 110% his fault. He would have threw it in to double coverage. There was nobody there. There was nobody open. There was nothing there at all. So, and again, I love Brock Purdy. I'm a huge Brock Purdy defender, but I'm realistic when there's nothing there to defend. And in this game, the defense, I gave the defense shit during the game, but, you know, like when things are just flying high, the speed of the game's going, you just like want to blame this, you want to blame that. So usually the next day or the day after or whatever, you start to think like, okay, logically, this was the reason, this was the reason, this was the reason. The defense actually played pretty good. The defense actually played really well, in my opinion. And so I want to take back that criticism I had during the game, because I know I really would love the defense to complement the offense, but the offense was just so bad. Brock Purdy was just so bad that there's nothing I can really say. The defense, why couldn't you just make up for all of Brock Purdy's mistakes? Brock Purdy was making mistake after mistake after mistake after mistake after mistake. And if you really want to talk about, some people want to blame Kyle Shanahan too, but honestly, I'm not lying to you. I saw adjustments in the second half. They were playing better scheme-wise in the second half. So I'm not, first half, yeah, Kyle Shanahan didn't draw up a really great game in the first half. In the second half, I actually thought he drew up a pretty good game in the second half. And it was Brock Purdy that just couldn't execute. It was Brock Purdy making these bad decisions left and right. I have never seen Brock Purdy. I've seen Brock Purdy in playoff games. I've seen Brock Purdy in the Super Bowl, really high pressured situations. Expectations are super high, and I've seen him perform. I've seen him perform well enough to be like, he played really fucking well in that playoff game. He played really well in that Super Bowl. Hey, he played really well in this situation against the Ravens. You know, the Ravens just made amazing plays by tipping the ball in the air and getting those interceptions. This one, though, holy crap, it's almost as if he manifested Nathan Peterman in this situation. I really couldn't understand that. I've never seen Brock Purdy this way. I've never seen Brock Purdy like that. Again, it was as if he had a concussion. It was as if he had a concussion, and I cannot explain it because I've never seen Brock Purdy play like that. Do I now give up on Brock Purdy and I think Brock Purdy sucks or whatever? No, I don't. I think everyone's allowed to have their worst game. Josh Allen had 9 for 30 not too long ago, throwing shit passes. You're allowed to have the worst game ever. But what matters is the trend. Is he trending? Is it trending towards that kind of situation? Like, is the next game where we play against the Cowboys, is he going to play just as bad as that? Or is he going to be the old Brock Purdy that we know? That's what matters here. Is this just can't be a trend from Brock Purdy. Everyone's allowed to have a bad game, especially, and this is not an excuse because clearly I just got done blaming Brock Purdy. It was his fault. But especially when your wide receivers are 2 rookies and Chris Conley. So, yeah, Brock Purdy has an uphill battle to climb. But if he wants $60 million a year, if he wants 65 or whatever it is for a quarterback these days, he needs to show that he can take care of the ball. He can show that he could take the sack when he has to, that he could throw it out of bounds when he has to, and not force it into double coverage twice. Very bad. Not even giving the defender an opportunity to catch the ball. They were just terrible balls. And he underthrew. I even said it during the game. He underthrew Cowing. If he got him in stride, that would have been a touchdown. Then there was another one where Kittle had a wheel route underneath, whatever, and it was underthrown for Kittle. It was a terrible, terrible, terrible game for Brock Purdy. He got an F. There was nothing I liked about Brock Purdy in that game. There wasn't one thing. I'm not lying. You want to say, hey, he had that great pass, to Kittle, and he had that great pass to Cowing, but those were underthrown. There's nothing I liked about Brock Purdy's performance, and I expected better from him, even if he has all these wide receivers issues. I've seen Brock Purdy play better than this. I have. So, Papa J in the house. Don't worry, Kyle will make Braille no one wide receiver. I mean, they had to play. I understand once Ayuk went out, Debo's gone. They have to still run like 4 wide receivers, and the 4 wide receivers are left are what? Chris Conley, Ricky Pearsall, Cowing, and Ronnie Bell. So you're going to see Ronnie Bell on the field regardless with those 2 wide receivers out. I just don't like the fact that he decided to throw to Ronnie Bell with anticipation. That's another thing I want to point out is that he threw to a wide receiver who's obviously been struggling, and you haven't been passing it to him a lot, especially in practice. From what I haven't heard anything about Ronnie Bell being great in practice, connection with Brock Purdy being that connection at all being good. I have not heard anything like that. And for him to throw to Ronnie Bell in that situation with anticipation and knowing what Ronnie Bell constantly does, for him to do that blows my mind. It really does. Like, I understand that you want to have faith. You gotta love your teammates. You gotta show your teammates support. You gotta be like, hey, I'm gonna throw this guy the ball. But to throw it to him, and I understand the defender had the outside and Ronnie Bell had the inside. So if he threw it way like where Ronnie Bell can catch it, because I think that's what was happening there. I think Brock Purdy expected him to keep going post with the defender, but Brock Purdy threw it more inside, more like into the chest, so that the defender behind him couldn't exactly make an interception, and Ronnie Bell would be able to catch it with his chest or front body, really fight for it. So I do think the ball he threw, if Ronnie Bell ran that route that Brock Purdy anticipated, I think it would give Ronnie Bell an opportunity to catch that ball. I just don't think that you should put your faith in Ronnie Bell in that situation. It's just not. It was not a good look. It's not a good look. Yeah, he played terrible. He played terrible, and that's why I'm grilling him. I want to make sure, especially for someone like me, who constantly talks good about Brock Purdy, constantly talks how amazing he is. I have to drill him for this, and it hurts. It sucks because that's my guy. I've never bought a jersey before in my life, and I've actually considered buying his jersey. That's how much I like this guy and how much I believe in him. I do believe this is not the Brock Purdy we saw. I do believe that Brock Purdy can overcome this. I do believe that Brock Purdy can play better against the Cowboys and will play better against the Cowboys, because I don't think this is going to be a trend. But if he plays bad and people watch my lives and they want to see my analysis, I got to be honest. And my honest opinion is he was the catalyst to our loss. The defense honestly played great. Special teams wasn't fantastic, but hey, they weren't as terrible as we're used to seeing them. I really feel like the defense brought it and did their job. I thought the offense was the issue. And some people want to say, like, okay, we couldn't get any run games, but there's one play that bothers me of Jordan Mason. And this is a small complaint because for the most part, Jordan Mason didn't really exactly have any holes. But there's a very particular play. You can go watch it if you want. And I can't remember which one it is. Right before Brock Purdy threw an interception, and I want to say it was his second one. I don't remember which one it was. It was the one in the end zone, double covered. McKivitz allowed the defender to hit his hand. That interception, right before that, Mason cut to the left because he didn't trust George Kittle or the tight end to come around in time, to motion up in time to block that defender in the hole to the right. If you go back and watch that run, you'll see that the tight end is cutting into that hole to block the linebacker, and there's a wide open gap for a touchdown. Mason completely stops and he decides to cut left when all the defenders are coming in from that left side. So I won't forget that. I remember seeing the game like, okay, I got to rewatch that video because that looked like a wide open gap to me. So even if the tight end didn't get there in time, almost to that hole, there was 3-4 guys to his left compared to the one guy to his right. That was a terrible read by Jordan Mason. It was a terrible read on that run. And so, but again, the catalyst to this loss was Brock Purdy. And if he wants $60 million, he needs to not make this a trend. Okay. And we're going to talk about, so I'm going to go ahead and drop that now and get enough. I talked for 15 minutes straight. about how bad Brock Purdy was. And I hope that got my point across just how bad he was and that I cannot defend it. But I do believe in him still. And I do believe that he will play better next game. And some people, and I want to say one more thing before I do this. I want to say one more thing. A lot of people are saying that Brock Purdy is held to this high standard. And he is. He's held to a high standard. He really is. And like, is it fair? Yes. Yes, it is. The man's going to get $60 million next year. This is the year to prove himself. If there's any year to be held to a high standard, it's contract year. And in this year, he needs to be held to a higher standard. So yes, I do believe. I don't know what I think I saw like 2 content creators saying like we hold him too high of a standard. No, we don't. We do not. He's supposed to be the franchise quarterback for the San Francisco 49ers. If he plays well and he's held to that standard and he actually lives up to that standard, he gets $60 million a year. So yes, he deserves to be held on this pedestal, held to a certain standard, regardless of his wide receivers. Because even if you have bad wide receivers, even if you have bad tight ends, you are the one still releasing the ball from your hand. You're the one deciding to throw it into double coverage. You are the one deciding to throw anticipation to a wide receiver you barely even throw the ball to. If Brock Purdy had just kept the ball, took some sacks, threw the ball out of bounds and stuff, I could say today, I could be like, there's nobody open. There's no one open. Last in separation, last in yak, no Ayuk, no Debo, no Juwan Jennings. I could say that right now. But I can't now because he decided to throw the ball. He decided to put the ball in danger. There's nothing I can say to defend that. Once you release the ball from your hand, it is your responsibility